Good day everyone! For today's video, I will be discussing about the manufacturing process of sulfur and sulfuric acid. Here are the list of topics that will be discussed in this presentation. Before the development of the Frasch process, elemental sulfur ores were mined manually. The sulfur in ores were concentrated by burning part of the sulfur in piles to melt the remainder, drawing off the liquid and casting it into molds. Ores from volcanic and similar deposits can be roasted to make sulfur dioxide gas, which is used to produce sulfuric acid and for other purposes. Marketable sulfur is produced by heating in autoclaves, drawing off the liquid, and casting it into large blocks from which it is subsequently reclaimed as a solid. Elemental sulfur is also produced by removing hydrogen sulfide from natural and refinery gases with absorbents such as mono and/or diethanolamines. The hydrogen sulfide is then converted to elemental sulfur by the Claus or modified Claus process. This process is described under sulfur from fuel gases. As early as the late 1890s, Hermann Frasch devised his ingenious method of melting the sulfur underground or under the sea and then pumping it up to the surface, and this is called the Frasch process. Here are the specifications of the Frasch process. To further understand this method, I'll show you a video on how Frasch process works. The basic principle of the Frasch method is that sulfur is melted underground and pumped up to the surface of the earth. A nest of three concentric pipes varying in size from 3 to 20 cm in diameter passes through the sulfur-bearing stratum and rests on the upper portion of the barren anhydrite. The outermost pipe, which has a diameter of 20 cm, is sunk up to the deposit. This pipe is an inlet for superheated water. The middle pipe of 10 cm diameter is held a little above the surface of sulfur deposits. This pipe is the outlet for molten sulfur. The innermost pipe is used to blow hot compressed air into the deposits of sulfur. Superheated water at 160 to 170 degrees Celsius under pressure is pumped into the outermost pipe. Since the melting point of sulfur is 113 degrees Celsius, it is melted and collected at the bottom. The superheated water enters the sulfur bed. Compressed air under a pressure of about 20 to 25 atmosphere is pumped through the innermost pipe. This forces the mixture of water and molten sulfur to gush out of the middle pipe. This mixture of molten sulfur and water is collected. On cooling, about 99% of pure sulfur gets separated. The sulfur can be either solidified in large storage vats or kept in liquid steam heat storage tanks. More than 95% of all U.S. sulfur is shipped as a liquid in insulated tank cars, tank trucks, and heated barges or ships. This reduces freight costs and gives the purchaser much purer sulfur. In summary, three concentric pipes are drilled to the ground to the sulfur deposits. Then superheated steam under pressure is sent through the outermost pipe. This melts the sulfur below melting point. Hot compressed air is sent through the innermost pipe, which froths up to the molten sulfur below. The sulfur foam formed rises into the middle pipe and is then collected. A method called the Claus process is used to convert sulfur compounds into sour gas to elemental sulfur. Most sulfur plants are based on the Claus process developed by Carl Friedrich Claus in 1883. He discovered that hydrogen sulfide reacted with air over a catalyst directly to form sulfur and water. The Claus process is a highly exothermic reaction with low efficiencies. Sour gas is commonly present in natural gas and oil formation. It is extremely dangerous as it is heavier than air, impairs our ability to smell and detect with increasing concentration. With respect to safety and product specifications, it must be removed from natural gas and petroleum products. This figure shows a simplified flow diagram of a two-stage Claus process plant. The first stage of the process converts hydrogen sulfide to sulfur dioxide and to sulfur by burning the acid gas stream with air in the reaction furnace. This provides sulfur dioxide for the next phase of the reaction. Gases leaving the furnace are cooled to separate out elemental sulfur formed in the thermal stage. Reheating, catalytically reacting, and sulfur condensation removes additional sulfur. Multiple reactors are provided to achieve a more complete conversion of the hydrogen sulfide. Condensers are provided after each reactor to condense the sulfur vapor and separate it from the main stream. Conversion efficiencies of 94 to 95% can be attained with two catalytic stages. The hydrogen sulfide produced is burned to give sulfur dioxide for sulfuric acid. However, the majority is converted to elemental sulfur by various modifications of the original Claus process, for which the reactions are the following. For the highest recovery efficiencies, note that the Claus reaction is favored with decreasing temperature. In general, gas processing plants and oil refineries are required to recover between 95 and 99.99% of the total sulfur introduced to the sulfur recovery unit. A conventional two-stage SRU with two Claus reactors is typically expected to recover 96+%. For a three-stage SRU, the general expectation is 98+%. Let us now proceed to modified Claus process. This figure shows the configuration of the multi-step modified Claus process that includes two kinds of reactors, a burner reactor and a converter reactor. In the burner reactor, hydrogen sulfide is burned with compressed air to the sulfur dioxide and water. Two critically important variables of the burner reactor are the oxygen to hydrogen sulfide ratio and the reactor temperature. The oxygen-hydrogen sulfide ratio needs to be 1/3 of the stoichiometric ratio for complete combustion of hydrogen sulfide. The temperature in the burner reactor must be maintained typically at 1850 degrees Fahrenheit to make sure that any ammonia present in the feed gas is completely destroyed to protect the catalyst in the converter reactor. The effluent gas from the burner reactor is cooled to 450 degrees Fahrenheit in the waste boiler as it enters the converter reactor for catalytic conversion of hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide to elemental sulfur and water. The converter effluent is introduced into a condenser unit to obtain elemental sulfur as a liquid product. Small quantities of sulfur produced in the burner reactor may be also recovered after the waste heat boiler. Typically, 3 sets of converter condenser unit in series are needed to achieve 95% recovery of sulfur in the modified Claus process. This shows the principal reaction in the modified Claus process in the burner and converter reactor sections. In the burner, hydrogen sulfide is partially oxidized to produce water and sulfur dioxide. In the reactor converter, the burner product sulfur dioxide reacts with the remaining hydrogen sulfide to produce elemental sulfur along with the side product water. Ideally, the final product should only consist of elemental sulfur and water with no hydrogen sulfide or sulfur dioxide present. The only way to achieve the intended product mix is to control the oxygen-hydrogen sulfide ratio in the burner. Two modified configurations are presented, straight-through and split-flow. The straight-through process is the preferred and simplest. It can process feed streams that contain more than 55 mol% hydrogen sulfide with air or acid gas preheat and can process 30 to 55 mol% hydrogen sulfide in the feed. The split flow configuration can process feeds that contain 5 to 30 mol% hydrogen sulfide. The straight-through process provides the highest sulfur recovery efficiency. Sulfur from other sources. Conventional copper smelters have limited sulfur recovery capability because certain portions of the gas are too low in sulfur dioxide concentration to make sulfuric acid economically. Electrical furnaces and flash melters produce more concentrated sulfur dioxide suitable for the recovery of elemental sulfur or sulfuric acid. Outokumpu flash melter process, in which flash melting with oxygen-enriched air makes use of the energy contained in the concentrate to supply most of the energy required by the furnaces. The concentrate must be dried before it is injected into the furnaces, and in the case of Outokumpu process, some of the furnaces use an optional heater to warm the reaction gas typically from 100 to 450 degrees Celsius. The reactions in the flash melting furnaces produce copper matte, iron oxide, and sulfur dioxide. The Noranda process, as originally designed, allowed the continuous production of blister copper in a single vessel by effectively combining roasting, smelting, and converting into one operation. The Noranda process uses heat generated by the exothermic oxidation of hydrogen sulfide. The figure shown in this slide illustrates the Noranda process reactor. The Mitsubishi process is a continuous copper smelting and converting process comprised of three steps: smelting of raw materials by injection, separation of slag and matte, and direct converting of high-grade matte. Among these three processes, only the Outokumpu process is still being used commercially. The Outokumpu flash melter as well as Mitsubishi and Noranda continuous melters are also being used for continuous smelting of copper ores and delivering high-strength sulfur dioxide gases for sulfuric acid manufacture. In the next slides, we will be discussing about the manufacturing processes of sulfuric acid. The contact process is the current method of producing sulfuric acid in the high concentrations needed for industrial processes. Vanadium oxide is the catalyst employed. So here is how contact process works. Sulfuric acid is made in a three-step process called the contact process. In stage 1, sulfur is obtained in its elemental form, a solid. It is melted and is then combusted in oxygen. The product form in this stage is sulfur dioxide. In stage 2, the sulfur dioxide is converted into sulfur trioxide. The reaction is in equilibrium, which means that as the product is formed, the reverse reaction can also occur and it can break down into its reactants. This reaction can be sped up to form sulfur trioxide by adding catalyst, which is vanadium oxide. This is an exothermic reaction, which means it gives out heat. Usually, this means that the formation of sulfur dioxide, the background reaction would be favored at higher temperatures. However, the catalyst needs a temperature over 400 degrees Celsius for it to work. So the idea is a trade-off. The reaction actually takes place at 450 degrees Celsius. You need the gases to reach equilibrium within the very short time that they are in contact with the catalyst in the reactor. So having an increased temperature ensures a high rate of reaction, meaning you establish a forward reaction quickly. Finally, in stage 3, sulfur trioxide is converted into a very concentrated sulfuric acid. This liquid is also known as oleum. It is very viscous and releases acidic fumes. It is very important at this stage to add water carefully, usually as a mist to sulfur trioxide. This is because the reaction is very exothermic, so mixing it with pure water would release a mist of sulfuric acid that would escape into the air. 99.5% of pure sulfuric acid is then being collected and is shipped off to where it is needed next. Let us now discuss the reactions involved in the contact process. The first step is to make sulfur dioxide. We then take the product of sulfur dioxide and react it with oxygen to produce sulfur trioxide. For this reaction, however, there are conditions that need to be met. A catalyst of vanadium, which is vanadium oxide, a temperature of approximately 450 degrees Celsius, and a pressure of approximately 2 atmosphere. For the last reaction, sulfur trioxide is then reacted to water to produce sulfuric acid. The reaction from sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide is an exothermic reversible reaction. An equilibrium constant for this reaction, calculated from partial pressures according to the law of mass action, may be expressed in this way. Values for Kp have been experimentally determined based on the pressure in atmosphere as presented in Table 4.5. This figure shows the equilibrium conversion of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide as a function of temperature for two feeds of different initial sulfur dioxide concentrations. Here are the following equipments for the contact process. The first equipment is the burner. Sulfur is frequently bought in and stored in molten condition. Next is the drying tower, which removes carbon dioxide, nitrogen, impurities such as chlorine, arsenic, fluorine, and a small amount of dust. The gases must be cooled between catalyst stages to achieve high conversion. For this purpose, cold air may be introduced to cool by dilution, or boilers, steam superheaters, or tubular heat exchangers may be employed. For the converters, the chemical conversion of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide is designed to maximize the conversion by taking into consideration that equilibrium is an inverse function of temperature and a direct function of the oxygen to sulfur dioxide ratio. Also, rate of reaction is a direct function of temperature. Gas composition and amount of catalyst affect the rate of conversion and the kinetics of the reaction, and lastly, removal of sulfur trioxide form allows more sulfur dioxide to be converted. Since the absorbing acid is continually becoming more concentrated, it is necessary to provide some means of diluting that part of acid which is discharged from the absorbers and which is to be recirculated. The 20% oleum is made in an oleum absorber. Blowers are used to propel the air and/or sulfur-containing gases through the processing equipment. Sulfur pumps, on the other hand, have steam-jacketed discharge piping to prevent cooling and solidification of the sulfur, which has a melting point of about 115 degrees Celsius. Acid pump is used for transferring acid from one place to another. For the acid coolers, the acid circulating over the drying tower must be cooled to remove the heat of dilution and heat of condensation of moisture from the incoming gas or air. Plants which must handle impure sulfur dioxide gases, such as those living smelters or roasters, and other processes may include waste heat boilers or heat recovery while cooling the gases, electrostatic mist precipitators for removal of acid mist and residual dust and fume. Ordinary steel and cast iron are satisfactory materials of construction for use in handling the gas or air and the strong acid. The chamber process is also called lead chamber process. It is a method of producing sulfuric acid by oxidizing sulfur dioxide with moist air using gaseous nitrogen oxide as catalyst. The reaction is taking place primarily in a series of large box-like chambers of sheet lead. Here are the following equipments used in the chamber process. First is the pyrite burner or sulfur burner. It is a furnace in which sulfur or iron pyrite are burned in the presence of air to get sulfur dioxide. Next is the niter pot. Mixture of sulfur dioxide and air obtained from dust chamber is passed in the niter pots. The Glover Tower is 30 feet in height and 8 feet in diameter. Mixture of sulfur dioxide, air, and oxides of nitrogen obtained from niter pots are passed in Glover Tower. Unreacted gases obtained from lead chamber are passed in Gay-Lussac Tower. Sulfuric acid is spread from the top, then nitrosyl hydrogen sulfate is obtained, which is taken back in Glover Tower. Mixture of sulfur dioxide, air, and oxide of nitrogen left in Glover Tower is sent to lead chamber, and in this chamber, dilute sulfuric acid is obtained. What is the difference between lead chamber process and contact process? The key difference between lead chamber process and contact process is that lead chamber process uses gaseous nitrogen oxide as a catalyst, whereas the contact process uses vanadium oxide. Furthermore, the reactants for the lead chamber process are sulfur trioxide and steam, while the reactants for the contact process are sulfur, oxygen, and moist air. Moreover, the final product of the lead chamber process is sulfuric acid, but the contact process produces sulfur trioxide and oleum as well. Here are the summary of the key difference between the lead chamber process and contact process. Much used sulfuric acid is recovered for recycling. This used acid is often referred to as a waste acid, a misnomer. The sulfuric acid recovery system continuously recycles acid by removing impurities and maintaining a high-quality, high-speed pickling solution, thus never allowing iron levels that will slow the production process. There are some acidic waste gases from stage 3 which can escape and cause local acid rain. The chimney is usually fitted with acidic scrubbers. These are bases like sodium carbonate. On contact, they neutralize the fumes forming salt and water. And other ways to release of any sulfur oxide is by recycling gases between stages 2 and 3. And that ends the presentation. For more information, kindly watch these videos about the manufacturing processes of sulfur and sulfuric acid. I have also included the references that I have used for this presentation. Once again, thank you for listening and have a nice day.